politics after being banned for years. The Al Nahda party is led by Rashid Ghannouchi, who returned from exile in January after the president was ousted. Yemen's president's hit out at Israel and the United States, saying they are behind the unrest sweeping his country and the Arab world. A senior Yemeni cleric becomes the latest high-profile figure to join the anti-government movement. I'll be back with the news at the top of the hour. Good to have you with us here on Al Jazeera. Time now for Inside Story.
There's a new battle for hearts and minds in the Middle East, but this time it's being fought by the country's rulers, trying desperately not to become the next Tunisia, the next Egypt, the next Libya. Arab leaders are resorting to incentives and sweeteners to keep their people calm. Is it too little too late? Is money even the answer, or can the Arab world be bought? This is Inside Story. Hello, I'm Kamal Santamaria. We're talking reform in the Middle East on today's Inside Story. Forced reform. Because if the uprisings in Tunisia and Egypt and now Libya have taught us anything, and they have, it's that keeping your own people happy is perhaps the best place to start to preempt any further unrest. How do you do that? Well, apparently you throw money at the problem. Subsidies on commodities, pay rises, job creation schemes, plus some ministerial sackings and promises of reform for good measure. Have a look at these examples. Algeria, where the government's repealed the 19-year-old state of emergency. President Abdelaziz Bouteflika also pledging to reduce the cost of staple foods and injecting some $1.4 billion into the public banks. In neighbouring Morocco, it's not so clear-cut, but King Mohammed's promised he will, quote, soon announce, quote, deep reforms. It took the deaths of 5 people in pro-democracy protests, though, for that to happen. Further east in Jordan, King Abdullah sacked his entire cabinet on February 1st. It was a big preemptive move. He also decided to pump around $500 million into the economy to help improve living conditions. And even in the oil-rich Gulf, Kuwait announced it would spend $4 billion to lower the cost of commodities and offered free staple foods to its citizens until the end of March next year. And in Bahrain, after weeks of protests, King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa reshuffled his cabinet under pressure as an exiled opposition leader returned to the country. So there is an understanding that changes have to be made, and it's taken some very serious uprisings for that to happen. But will it work? Can people be effectively bought with promises of the simple everyday things they'd probably expect from their government? Let's put that to our guests. In Riyadh is Mohammed Fahad Al-Khatani, who is a professor of economics and the head of the Saudi Civil Rights Association. Here in Doha is Sharif Al-Musa, a professor of political science at Georgetown University. And also via broadband from Maryland in the United States is Adil Shamu. He is a senior analyst with the Institute for Foreign Policy Studies in Washington, D.C. Gentlemen, thank you all for your time. We appreciate you coming on Inside Story. Let's start with Sharif Al-Musa here in Doha. As a professor of political science, what do you think of all this politically? When you see these different countries giving out these incentives, trying to say to their people, we are looking after you, is it perhaps good politics, looking after people or trying to look after your own people in a time of potential crisis?
Well, I mean, I think it probably is a little too late to pacify people with these very simplistic kind of reforms. I don't think they will be able to do this. Probably what people also could read it as is, okay, these governments just even without, we haven't done very much yet, and they are responding this way. I think it gives people a sense of empowerment that they actually could get better deals if they move on. So that is my sense of it.
I guess the argument is also, what more could they do at the moment? Financial incentives are a good place to start, but what more could they do? Yeah,
they are good, but I mean, how long will they start? And where did these governments really get the money from? I mean, it is not very clear where this money comes from. But I think people now, there is the idea in the region that people need to serious radical reforms. in the republics, they mostly want the regimes to go away. In the monarchies, they want constitutional reforms, constitutional monarchy. So I guess that is what is going on now. This is what people seem to want. Now, whether they be able to do this or to get this is another story.
And we'll look at constitutional monarchies a little bit later. Mohammed Fahad Al-Khatani in Riyadh, let me come to you. Without using this very crass phrase of buying people, is that effectively what these leaders are trying to do? They're trying to buy their way out of trouble?
Well, it reflects the regime nervousness. Something ought to be offered to the people upon the king's return. And apparently there is some disagreement in how to present something palatable to the people. And apparently they agreed upon something, some financial package, which is to me and to a lot of Saudis not enough. The sense that you presented something already on the table is not enough. And financial package, financial gift is not really enough. People are yearning for liberty, more freedom to take part in decision-making process in their country.
But isn't it, sorry to interrupt you, isn't it, and perhaps not in the case of Saudi Arabia, it's certainly in other countries, isn't it responding to the most acute issue? We like to look in maybe from the West.
Well, not at all.
Go ahead.
You see, not at all. I do not see it as response to the need of the people. For instance, unemployment has been there for many, many years. The government gave promises after promises. These promises never met and never kept. The thing is, sometimes you need to introduce something as an earnest to the people that shows that you are serious. For instance, to deal with the chronic problem of detaining, political detainees that thrown in prison arbitrarily for many, many years. Some of them, even reach a decade in prison with no trial, no charges. Maybe it's about time to review their cases and set them free as something that could be introduced to the people, that people could look at it as a right step in the right direction. But to throw just financial package that's already there, most of it is there, it became a source of jokes and mockery. And hopefully we expect something to happen in the near future. In the past 2 weeks, there were 3 petitions asking the king to implement a constitutional monarchy. Hopefully we see that not very soon, but maybe in the near future.
Let me bring in Adil Shamu now in Maryland. Put the same sort of question to you. The idea, and Mohammed has refuted this over in Riyadh, but the idea that money and financial issues and financial security is perhaps the most important issue for people. We like to look at the ideas of freedom and democracy and expression and these things as being the big issues, but surely it's about having financial security for a person and their family.
The Arab world is going through an earthquake, through an historical event. The Arabs have been occupied since 12th century by the Mongols and Persian, Ottoman, and then the British, and now even Americans. I think their dignity